Welcome to Amber Light, where we keep that porch light shining brightly into the darkness. Holeman is lying. Deceptive practices in interrogations. I get a kick out of this picture. It was taken at the Delphi courthouse during the Richard Allen trial. Jerry Holeman posing was kind enough, I think, maybe to pose for the picture, even though it was, claiming that Holeman is a liar. And I like the fact that it has a donut. So stereotypical. Is that a donut in Holman's hand? It's kind of hard to tell. He's got something, maybe a sandwich. I don't know. But I got a kick out of this photo, and I think Holeman was a good sport for at least posing for the picture.
Jerry Holeman is not a liar. Jerry Holeman is not a liar.
Enough already, Doug. We believe you. The topic of today's video is deception during police interrogations. And, hey, it's a fact. The police are legally allowed to lie during an interrogation. They can lie about the consequences of somebody that they're interrogating and how they answer. They can say things like, hey, it might be in your best interest here to tell the truth. Let us help you, that kind of thing. Get this off your chest. You're going to feel a lot better. That kind of thing. They can lie about consequences. They might even suggest, sort of throughout that process, that, hey, it'll be better for you if you just come clean and tell the truth. But the truth is, they don't have any influence at all on sentences. That is a judge's decision. So this is deceptive. They can also lie about evidence during an interrogation. They can claim, hey, they've got your DNA, they've got fingerprints, they've got an eyewitness who says they saw you doing this crime. They can tell you just about anything regarding evidence during an interrogation. They can lie to you. So that's a given. We know that legally they do it. They're trained that way in some cases. But my question is all this ethical? Is it right? Is it where we want to be as a society? Do we really want officers to be able to lie to you during an interrogation? There's really a lot of truth and wisdom to the claim that, hey, look, if you ever end up being interrogated by the police, the best thing you can do is invoke your Miranda rights. Really, just literally, just say, hey, look, I want a lawyer and I'm not going to talk because they're allowed to play all kinds of games with you. And if you don't allow those games to be played, then, hey, take it to court and let the lawyers figure it out. Let's get into this a little bit. Here is from Hidden True Crimes interview of Jerry Holeman. This is what Jerry Holeman had to say on the topic.
But I did use some deceptive tactics that were trained to use. And, some people call them lies. I call them deceptive tactics, interview techniques.
So deceptive tactics or interview techniques, that's what these lies are called. They're lies. At the end of the day, they're lies. The police are just lying to you. Here we have the interrogation of Richard Allen from October 26, 2022 by Jerry Holeman. I'm going to go through here and show you just a few examples of these interview techniques. So first of all, we'll get into the ballistics of the cartridge that was found at the crime scene and how they are tying this to Richard Allen's gun. Listen to this.
Well, we'll get to the meat and potatoes of this, Rick. I appreciate you being cooperative with me. I want to talk about the results of your handgun, okay? Okay. So, handguns, as you know, probably, you may know more about them than I do. I don't know a lot, but they're very specific as far as the characteristics of the gun. So the firing pin is different from Your firing pin extraction device is different from my extraction device. And they're basically what the lab has told me is that they're like fingerprints. They're specific to that gun and that gun only. Okay. So we took your gun, your 40 cal SIG, and we sent it down there to the lab to have it matched with an item that we located on February the 14th when we found the girls.
Okay.
And that item was a 40 caliber Winchester round. We found that at the scene.
Okay.
The extraction marks on that round match your gun.
Perfect.
So
This is okay.
just hear me out. I'm just trying to.
I am.
So this is the round. Okay. Those are the extraction marks. That's the best picture of them. There's actually 3 of them. That's the same round that we found. Okay. And like I said, the methodology that they use is scientific, and they were telling me, and this is the report. You can read it if you wish.
I don't need to read it.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to help you. You know, let me tell you something.
Okay.
You know, the prosecutor and the other investigators, they want to see you lock you up, throw away the key. I don't think you're
ridiculous.
Just listen to me for 2 minutes. Let me explain this to you. I'm on your side. I talked to you a little bit out there on the scene.
So I'm going to stop it here just for a moment. So you've noticed that when he talks about the science behind the spent cartridge or the ejected cartridge, that it's like a fingerprint. It's a hard science, and that it matches your gun. And this is a lie. This is a lie, because we know now that after the trial that this cartridge, that there were other weapons in the area that were not ruled out, that simply could not be ruled out. But here in this interrogation, Holeman is saying, look, this matches your gun. It's hard science. And that is a deceptive tactic. You'll also notice here that he then says, hey, look, he's going to play the consequence side of it now, move from the evidence, go to the consequence. Look, the prosecutor, man, they want to lock you up and throw away the key. Look, I'm on your side. I'm your buddy. Do you see those tactics being used here, both consequential and evidence? Let's take a look at another.
And I don't think you realize the severity of this. You realize the death penalty is on the table for this?
So here's another example of the consequences. Jerry Holeman here tells Richard Allen, I don't think you see the severity here of the situation. Do you know that the death penalty is on the table here? He's playing the consequences here. He's lying about that. We don't even know yet if the death penalty is on the table. Nobody at this point had even been charged yet. So while it's possible that the death penalty could have been on the table, Holeman does not know that as fact. And so this is a lie. There's a lot of examples in this video. If you just go watch the interrogation video, keep an eye out for lies about evidence and lies about consequences. I wanted to flip over to a web page from NPR, the National Public Radio. They have a pretty nice article here that outlines this. The title is, "It's Legal for Police to Use Deception in Interrogations. Advocates want that to end." And this is published on November 8th of 2024 by Meg Anderson. And we'll take a look at some of this article here. Ted Bradford, this is going to be another example. Ted Bradford says the worst day of his life was when detectives took him into a tiny room to question him about a rape. The whole day it was like accusation after accusation, he says. I kept telling them over and over, I didn't do this. Bradford says the officers in Yakima, Washington claimed they had biological evidence that they could prove he did it, and they weren't going to let him leave until he admitted it. I knew I didn't do it, he said, so I'm thinking, in order to get out of this situation, I could just give them a statement. They'll test that evidence. It'll show them that I didn't do it, and then this will all be done with. After hours of questioning, Bradford confessed to the crime. But the evidence police had, a mask left at the scene, could not be DNA tested. This was the late 90s and the technology wasn't there yet. Bradford recanted his confession, but was convicted anyway. He was 22 years old with two small children when he went to prison. Every day I woke up and knew that I shouldn't be here, he says. Advancements in DNA testing helped lead to his exoneration in 2010. What happened to Bradford might seem extreme, but nearly 30 years later, the tactic used on him is not. In every state, police officers are allowed to lie to adults during an interrogation. The hope, in many cases, is that they'll get a person to confess to committing a crime. Deception is a powerful law enforcement tool in eliciting confessions, says wrongful convictions attorney Laura Nyrider. Police are trained all around the country in the 50 states to use deception during interrogation, to lie both about the evidence against a suspect and to lie about the consequences of confessing in order to make it seem not so bad if you just say that you did these things, she says. Police can go into an interrogation room with the suspect, Nyrider says, and emerge with one of the most believable pieces of evidence imaginable, a confession. It's a quick and relatively straightforward way to close a case, she says. But Nyrider says using deception can also draw false confessions. According to the Innocence Project, a national organization that works to overturn wrongful convictions, nearly a third of DNA exonerations from 1989 to 2020 involved a false confession. That technique is used in other countries, including much of Europe. In England, France, Germany, Australia, Japan, and elsewhere, for instance, the police are generally not allowed to deceive suspects. So it kind of seems to me like the United States needs to really get in alignment with the rest of the world in the way that the police treat people during interrogations. Why are they allowed to lie? Why are they allowed to deceive? It seems unethical to me. It really is an ethical issue here. It's not a legal issue, but it's one of ethics. You know, if you or I in our workplace, if we lied about something on the job, we would probably lose our job. Let's take a look at another case.
The city of Fontana has agreed to a $900,000 settlement with a man they detained for a murder that never happened. He'd actually called them for help, and then they pressured him to confess to killing his father, but his father wasn't dead. Eyewitness News reporter John Gregory explains.
It was a call to police for help. Tom Perez's dad was missing. 36 hours later, Perez found himself in custody. Police had gotten him to admit to murdering his father.
I was now in their little box of horrors, their little box, as they call it.
It was August of 2018. Fontana police were convinced Perez's father had been murdered. They thought Perez appeared suspicious, and they found some blood evidence at the home the two shared. They asked Perez to come to the station, and that's where they turned a missing person case into a 17-hour interrogation. They even brought in Perez's best friend to try and get a confession.
Dude, they got you on murder, Dad. They got you on murder. Impossible.
When that didn't work, detectives brought in Perez's dog.
You killed him, and he's dead. And your dog is sitting here looking at you, knowing that you killed your dad.
Detectives even suggested the dog may have to be put down after witnessing such a traumatic event.
Just wanted to hold her. Not let go. And then they took her out of the room sometime after that. Felt like the end of the world for me. Will you beer?
I've never, ever seen a situation where the police bring a dog this size through the police department. They transport it there, walk it through the police department, bring it into an interrogation room, and use it as a tool in order to seek a confession. It's unconscionable.
Perez was suffering from mental health issues. He was sleep deprived, and he says he was denied medical help. After 17 hours, police finally got him to confess to the murder.
Did you stab him?
I didn't think that I did.
But if you did, where would you have stabbed him?
Might have been the belly.
Detectives had their suspect and they had their confession, but what they didn't have was a body. And that's because Perez's father wasn't dead.
They learned that Tom's father was alive and well and was at LAX airport ready to take a flight to go visit his sister. They didn't have the nerve to look him in the face. They didn't have the nerve to tell him his dad's okay.
Authorities put Perez in a hospital on a psychiatric hold. It was days later he finally learned that his father was alive.
A younger nurse came over to my bedside and says, I know it says in your file that not to speak to anybody, any family members. But your dad's on the phone. And I went, what? She handed the phone to me, and I just dropped to the floor crying because he was alive.
Perez filed a federal lawsuit against the Fontana Police Department and was awarded $900,000. But the city added the settlement included no finding of wrongdoing.
Deceptive practices during interrogations, police lying to people that they're interviewing about evidence and consequences. This should not be allowed. Holeman is lying. Well, they all do. It's part of their training. And we need to change that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and thanks for watching Amber Light.